imaging this. You step into a place and it's like all your senses just light up at once. You've got these amazing smells, leather, spices you can't quite name, mint tea wafting through these narrow winding alleys. Everywhere you look, there's this explosion of color, metal gleaming, and just this constant buzz of people talking, trading. It's the Moroccan souk. These aren't just markets. They feel like the actual heartbeat of Morocco. Going through one isn't just shopping. It's like, well, it's a whole cultural journey, right? Back through history. Think Marrakech or Fez with its artisans, maybe Essaouira by the coast. Each one is just this unique adventure waiting. And today, that's where we're going. We're doing a deep dive. This isn't your average travel guide, though. We're giving you the inside track, drawing from excerpts from Moroccan souk shopping, a cultural journey. Basically, our mission is to pull out the really key stuff, the practical tips, but also the cultural insights, the little nuggets of knowledge, so you can really get what souk shopping is all about, whether you're actually planning a trip or, just dreaming about one from your couch.
So how are we going to break this down? First, we'll look at the amazing things you can actually find, the treasures and the stories behind them. Then we'll get into let's say, the art of navigating these incredible places. It's kind of a skill. And finally, we'll point you towards some of the absolute best souks across Morocco, because they really do have different vibes. So, okay, let's start with the goods. The first thing that hits you is just the sheer amount of stuff. Incredible crafts, things you just don't see anywhere else. But it's more than just objects, isn't it? Like each thing has a bit of a story.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly it. What's really fascinating, I think, is that each product connects you. It links you to a specific place in Morocco, particular crafts, sometimes, generations of family making this stuff. You're not just buying a souvenir, you're honestly taking home a little piece of Moroccan heritage. There's history woven into it.
That's a lovely way to put it. And maybe the most iconic example, it has to be the rugs, right? The hand-woven carpets.
Yeah.
We're not just talking floor coverings here. What is it about, say, Moroccan Berber rugs?
Yeah.
Why are they so special, so sought after?
Well, Berber rugs, they often come from women in the Atlas Mountains, and they are just packed with storytelling. The bold geometric patterns, they're not just decoration. Often they're ancient symbols representing the weaver's life, her beliefs, maybe even her tribe.
Wow.
And these aren't copied patterns. They're passed down, often improvised. So each rug is genuinely unique. Plus, the natural dyes they use from plants and minerals, it gives them this incredible depth, this vibrancy. It feels alive. So when you buy one, you're really buying a piece of someone's personal history.
That's quite profound, isn't it?
Yeah.
And talking about tradition, Fez, you immediately think leather. What's the story there? Why is Fez leather so famous?
Fez is famous for its tanneries, and the amazing thing is they're still using methods that are, centuries old, literally. They use natural dye saffron for yellow, poppy flowers for red. It's very labor intensive. It hasn't changed much in maybe 1,000 years. And that gives the leather this unique character, this durability. Yeah. And you find everything, beautiful bags, shoes, those cool poofs you see everywhere, and basically every color you can imagine. Touching Fez leather is kind of like touching history.
The whole sensory experience must be incredible. And then the spices and teas, just the smell pulls you in. What should people look out for in the spice souks?
Yeah.
The must-haves.
Oh, the spice stalls are amazing. You see these mountains of color, saffron, cumin, paprika, cinnamon, but definitely look for blends like Ras El Hanout. It means head of the shop. Yeah, it's supposed to be the spice merchant's best mix, often a secret recipe with dozens of spices. And of course, Moroccan mint tea leaves. So refreshing. Usually served in those beautiful, ornate teapots. They make fantastic souvenirs, the tea and the pots.
The artistry just seems to be everywhere. The ceramics, the pottery.
Yeah.
They're stunning too. So colorful.
Definitely. Those brightly painted tagines, bowls, plates, often with these intricate geometric patterns. That's a real hallmark of Moroccan style. And you'll see amazing Zellan-inspired tiles too. That's the mosaic work. Tiny, hand-chiseled geometric pieces fitted together. Each piece, whether it's pottery or tile, often reflects the style of its region. Functional art, really.
And the lanterns.
Yeah.
Love those. Brass, copper. When they're lit, they create these magical shadows. It's like something from a storybook.
They really are enchanting. Metalwork is another area where Moroccan artisans just excel. You see the tiny holes in a lantern making those patterns, or the detailed etching on a teapot or a tray. It's incredible skill, often passed down in families for generations. It's not just about light, it's about shaping light, making it beautiful.
Okay, moving on to something that's become famous globally, argan oil. People call it liquid gold, especially down south near Essaouira.
Argan oil is pretty special, yeah. It comes from the kernels of the argan tree, which only grows in Morocco. Traditionally, Berber women have been central to its production. Now you have lots of cooperatives empowering women in those areas, which is great. And beyond cooking, it's fantastic for skin and hair. That's the liquid gold part. So you'll find the pure oil, but also soaps, cosmetics, all tied to the land and traditional knowledge.
And of course, you can't ignore the clothes and textiles. Just so vibrant. The colors, the textures draw you right in.
Yeah, Moroccan textiles really blend tradition and practicality beautifully. You've got hand-embroidered caftans, elegant but also comfy, colorful scarves, hand-loomed blankets. They all tell a story about regional styles and techniques. They're basically wearable art that reflects the country's heritage.
So we've painted this picture of all these incredible things you can find, but actually getting them, well, it's not like going to a mall, is it? This is where it gets really interesting, I think, for anyone who wants the real experience. Mastering the art of, navigating the souk. Because, like you said, shopping there is an interaction. It's a cultural thing.
You're spot on. It's not just about buying and selling. It's deeply cultural. And understanding how to engage, how to participate, it just makes the whole experience richer, more authentic, and honestly more fun, too.
Right. And the number one rule, the thing everyone mentions, bargaining, haggling.
Yeah.
We all know you're supposed to do it, but what's the deeper meaning? It's not just about saving money, right?
Not at all. Bargaining is absolutely expected for most things anyway. It's part of the fun, yes, but it's more like a cultural ritual, a social dance. It's about building a connection, showing respect for the seller's time, the item's value, and just enjoying the back and forth. The practical tip is usually start around, say, 1/3 to half the asking price, then work up. But the real art is being polite, smiling, treating it like a friendly negotiation, not a battle. It's not about winning. A good haggle ends with both people feeling good, maybe even sharing some mint tea.
Ah, that's nice.
Though it's worth saying, for things like basic food or small quantities of spices or really cheap items, haggling isn't really done.
Gotcha. So it's about the interaction. Now, what about actually finding your way around? Souks are famous for being mazes, which is part of the charm, I guess.
Absolutely. Getting lost, wandering down some unexpected alley, that's often where the best discoveries are. It's definitely part of the charm. But, if you're short on time, or maybe you've got kids with you and getting really lost isn't ideal.
Yeah, practicality matters.
Exactly. So think about maybe hiring a licensed local guide for a bit. They know the shortcuts, the best spots, they can really help. Or, simpler still, just make sure your phone's charged. Use GPS landmarks to find your way back when you're ready to emerge.
Good advice. And like anywhere, respecting local culture is key. What are the main things to keep in mind?
Dressing modestly is generally a good idea in the Medinas and souks. It's just a sign of respect for local customs. And photography etiquette, really important. Lots of artisans are fine with pictures of their amazing work, but always ask permission first.
Right.
Before snapping photos of people or close-ups of their stalls. A simple gesture, maybe a s'il vous plaît. It goes a long way.
Okay. And with all this unique stuff, authenticity comes up. The source material mentions some stalls sell mass-produced things. Besides just asking where something's from, are there other clues? How do you spot the real deal, the handmade Moroccan crafts?
That's a really good question for a deep dive like this. Okay, so for leather, real Fez leather often has tiny imperfections, a rich, kind of earthy smell. It gets softer with age. Synthetics don't. For rugs or textiles, look for slight irregularities in the weave, maybe tiny color variations. That often indicates natural dyes and handwork. Machine-made stuff is usually too perfect, too uniform.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if authenticity is super important, try to find cooperatives, places where the artisans themselves sell their work. They're directly connected to the craft. Also, honestly, trust your gut. If a price for something supposedly handmade seems way too low, it probably is.
That's really helpful. And one last very practical point. Carry cash.
Oh, essential. Absolutely essential. Bigger shops, maybe more tourist-oriented ones, might take cards, but so many of the smaller stalls, the traditional ones, cash only, and specifically Moroccan dirhams. Having smaller bills is super helpful too for smaller buys and for haggling. You don't want to miss out on something amazing just because you only have large notes or plastic.
So if you zoom out, all these tips, They're not just rules, are they? They're ways to really engage with the culture.
Exactly. They're invitations to participate, to understand the value placed on that human interaction, on the story behind the item, on the craft itself. Following these tips helps you move from just being a tourist looking at the souk to actually being in it, part of its life.
Okay, so we've talked about the amazing things to buy and the whole cultural dance of how to shop. Now, for the final part of our dive, where should you actually go?
Right.
What does this mean for you if you're planning a trip or just, armchair traveling? Let's talk specific souks, because they really do have different personalities, don't they?
They absolutely do. And that raises an interesting point, right? How even in one country, the shopping experience can be so different from city to city. It reflects their unique histories, their economies, their whole vibe. Each souk has its own character, its own specialties, its own rhythm.
And you basically have to start with Marrakech, right? The Medina, Souk Samarine, Souk Abloh,
Yeah.
probably the most famous. What's it really like?
Marrakech is... well, it's a full-on sensory experience, a whirlwind. It's this dazzling mix of everything imaginable, jewelry, spices, those amazing carpets we talked about, the scale, the energy. It's just captivating. You find different sections for different crafts, the dyers area with all the colorful wool, the slipper souk, the spice area. Each bit has its own feel. It's sensory overload, but in the best possible way. It's the icon for a reason.
And then there's Fez Al Bali. If Marrakech is pure energy, Fez feels older, like
Yeah.
stepping back in time.
Fez really does have this medieval atmosphere. It feels incredibly authentic. That's where you find the famous tanneries. The smell can be intense, yeah, but seeing those ancient dyeing vats is unforgettable.
Wow.
The souk there often feels less commercialized than Marrakech, more focused on traditional guilds, specific crafts like ceramics or metalwork. You get a much deeper sense of the old ways of life and trade, wandering those narrow, shady alleys.
And for a totally different vibe, maybe something calmer, Essaouira by the coast.
Essaouira is just laid back. It's got this coastal charm. The souks are smaller, brighter. You get that sea breeze.
Nice.
It's especially good for argan oil products, like we mentioned, but also for local art, lots of ocean-inspired stuff.
Good.
And they have this distinctive thudia woodwork. It's a beautiful, fragrant wood from the area. It's a great place to find something really unique, less overwhelming.
And for maybe the most serene experience, Chefchaouen, the Blue City.
Chefchaouen's souk is definitely smaller, calmer, and shopping against that backdrop of blue walls is just magical.
Got it.
It's really good for handmade textiles, local wool clothes, blankets, and other crafts that reflect the Rif Mountain culture around it. It's a much more relaxed pace. You can have more personal chats with the artisans. It's a gentler introduction to souk shopping, maybe.
What an amazing journey through these souks. We've looked at the incredible things you can find, the stories in the rugs, the magic of the lanterns, argan oil, and we've unpacked how to navigate it, all the art of bargaining, embracing, getting lost, respecting the culture. Crucial stuff. We've even touched on the different personalities, the buzz of Marrakech, ancient Fez, coastal Essaouira, serene Chefchaouen. It's so clear that shopping here is way more than just buying things. It's an adventure, an art form, really. A deep sensory cultural hit.
It really is. And as we wrap up, maybe it leaves you with something to think about. In our world today, it's all online shopping, algorithms telling us what to buy, fixed prices. What can this ancient way of the souk teach us? With its focus on talking to people, on the story behind the object, the simple enjoyment of the exchange. What does that tell us about human connection? About what makes an item truly valuable?
That's a great point.
How does this kind of experience challenge our modern way of just consuming things? Maybe it reminds us of the connections that can exist between buyer and seller, between an object and its tradition reaching back centuries. Perhaps the real treasure you find in the souk isn't just the thing you buy, but the connection you actually make while you're there.